Hello, in this video I'm going to show you some tips and tricks on some of the features of 4castplus timeline reporting. So to start with, I've opened up this Clark Falls Hydro Facility project, and I'm currently on the dashboard of that project. And so for this example, I'm going to zoom way over to the right hand side here on this second last tab into the reports area. Now from here, under Timeline Charts, I'm going to open up an Earned Value S-curve by project. So I'll click on that, and this immediately brings up an S-curve timeline report. Now it brings it up to where I had my settings last time I use it, because the system remembers all of your settings every time you use these charts. So for example, had I included pending cost in this, then the next time I come in, it will show pending cost as one of the curves on this report. It also remembers my start and end date, the progress measurement I'm using, and the type. So as you can see here, as I can click around on some of these things, you can see I can turn on and off some of these parts to the chart. So if I just wanted a classic S-curve, I would probably just keep it at current cost, actual cost, earned value, and then estimate to complete. So those would be my classic S-curve, but in 4castplus we provide a number of other timeline curves that you can play around with, to exactly the requirements that you have. So right now I have it zoomed out all the way to for the full year, from really the beginning of 2025 to December 2025. Now, what this vertical bar here means is that is the current progress measurement in terms of like the cutoff date that I'm using to view this chart. So that's why these other curves here, like actual cost and earned value, only show up to the point of this curve. So if I wanted to look at a different progress measurement, right now I'm looking at the open one. So open means it's still being worked on. It hasn't been submitted into the database yet. So if I wanted to look at a prior progress measurement, I could looks like I have 3 prior ones. According to the end of March, I can click on the end of March, and that will move this vertical bar back to that point in time. If I wanted to look back in history as to what did things look like at that point in time. Now that ability to view things at a prior point in time, that exists on all 4castplus reports, so you can kind of like move back and forth in history as you need. I'm going to leave it for this example to my current progress measurement. To get an idea as to where that comes from, if I just click on the progressing area up here, this is where it shows my current progress measurement, which is as of the end of April of 2025. If I wanted to look at a prior progress measurement, I can do that. As you can see, this one has yet to be submitted. So if I were to hit this submit button, it would submit this progress measurement, and then it would lock down and make a copy of all of the data in the project at that point in time, so that I can use that to align all reportings future reports to that point in time. Now the discussion around progressing is a whole other discussion. We're just going to be focusing on this chart for this video. So right now I have this data that's showing on my chart. Now if I wanted to zoom in on this a little bit, so if I wanted to just hold my shift key down and then zoom in here, and if I just wanted to zoom in on that portion, I just let my mouse go, and then it zooms in into that area. If I again hold the shift key down and I use my mouse wheel to scroll back out, I can scroll to any point in time up until the point where I like the look of the graph that I'm looking at. And I can still add in more curves as I go if I wanted to add in addition to my current budget. If I wanted to add in my pending budget, I can do that as well. Another thing I can do, let's just zoom this right back out. If I wanted to move this end date back from December to, say, I'll move this to the end of June, so I can look at a little bit more of a narrow view of my chart, I can do that. And if I wanted to add in my baseline budget, so if I've got my baseline budget, my current budget, and my estimate to complete, let me just remove the estimate to complete for now, and I'll just show you my baseline budget, my current budget, and my pending budget. So I can see really in this case the effect of change orders are going to have on the project going forward. Now, if I want to remove those again, I'm just going to kind of like give you just a couple of ways you can look at this data. And by the way, maybe I'll just turn that on again. If I'm looking, like, because this chart has got a lot of potential curves you can throw on here, as you hover over it, you can see it changes and it highlights the curve that I'm hovering over. If things are getting a little busy in there, if I've got quite a few items on my curve and I can't quite find it, I can always just do this by hovering over it. It will highlight that particular curve on my chart. So I'll kind of bring this back here to where it was. So here I've got my standard, I'll remove baseline. So I've got my standard budget, which is really effectively your planned value at that point in time, my actual cost, and my earned value. So this project is looking like it's underperforming. And if I were to take my look at my estimate to complete, it will show that I'm going to experience an overage. Let's just move this out to the end of the year again, and we'll let it redraw that. So I can see by the end of the year, my orange line here is showing me that we are theoretically going to come in over budget based on our historical progress at this point in time. So that's a couple of things I wanted to point out. Another thing, let's look at these chart options. You can tinker around with how things get displayed on this chart, but I can also change the marker symbol. So right now I've got these circles showing here. Let's say I want to change it to triangles if that's my preference. I can change that look a little bit. And at any point in time, if I wanted to, for example, send this to an Excel report, maybe I'll add in forecast to complete before I do that, and my baseline budget. So let's just to kind of fill this out a little bit. I'll send it to an Excel report, and what that'll do is this will pop up the same information in this Excel report with all of my data showing here, so that if I needed to pivot this data or do some other work on it or report it in some other way, I actually have the specific data that's drawing these curves. And as you can see, I have both the linear chart as well as I have a period chart here as well. I'm going to show you that on screen in just a sec. So I'll close this. So to look at the period chart, let's flip this over from cumulative to period. So if I do that, I'm going to see this period chart. Now that looks kind of busy. It's maybe a little bit hard to follow. So there's a couple things we can do. Once again, if I wanted to hold down my shift key and just drag my mouse over this particular area, let's say that's where things seem to get a little bit more expensive, I can zoom into those parts of the chart as well. So, but if I wanted to also remove some of these, I can simplify what's going on in this particular period. I can do that as well. Now again, I can zoom that out using my mouse wheel. And another thing you can do if you get if a longer date range and you've got quite a bit of data on here, you can change your date interval. So right now it's showing as daily. So it's tracking the changes and the data on a daily basis. As you can see down here, you can see this goes day by day. It shows the changes in all the data on a day by day basis. If I wanted to change this to, let's say I want to just do it by monthly because I've got a bigger period sample here, I can change that date interval to monthly, or as you can see, quarterly or yearly if you've got a really long date range that you wanted to look at. Okay, going back to my cumulative here. Another thing I can do is that, like, I'm currently looking at this data according to the cost of the project. So if you're an owner or if you're a contractor and you're really focused on managing cost controls, then cost is a good way to look at this data. But if you are a contractor and you wanted to show a chart from your customer's cost or your revenue or your billable, you can flip this chart to look at the revenue side of the data. As well, if you've got a heavy labor component in your project, you can also look at this by labor. So you've got your baseline budgeted hours, current budget hours, actual hours, forecast to complete, etc. By hours. Okay, I'll flip this back to cost for the moment. One other thing I'll point out as I go here is that the data that's showing in my table down below, If I were to add pending cost, you'll see pending cost add into my table. If I wanted to show my fully committed budget, it will show fully committed budget in my table down below here. And as I mentioned earlier, you can see that this can get fairly busy if you show all of these curves. So being able to hover over it like this can really help you isolate that particular curve on my chart so that you can understand what that particular item is doing. And again, as you've probably been seeing as I go along here, as I move along this in any one of the curves, it will show me the numbers as it plays out over time.